Hey ho and welcome to my second Quake Live game analysis video. The last one I did got a great response, so of course I decided to do more of these. And in fact there were only really two purely negative comments, one of them being an obvious troll comment as well, nice try tourist. The other one addressing the sound issues. So for this video I've lowered the in-game sound volume by quite a lot, so that should be fixed. If not, just let me know through a comment. The game I've chosen to analyze this time is a game between Cypher and Cooler, which received the highest amount of requests, with a total of 2. It's actually quite a recent demo from ASUS Spring, played in May this year, and this is a deciding map of the finals. Winner takes it all. Alright, so we're going to start on Cooler's point of view. He spawns in the plasma room, he collects all the items, and pause. Now what you can see is the reddest gun. And you can assume Cypher has not heard or seen Cooler yet. So I would like you to maybe pause this video and just think for a minute what the best thing to do in Cooler's situation is. Just go through all the possibilities and then you can unpause and hear my version. So first of all, you can safely assume Cypher's down with the railgun. Of course there's a slight chance Cypher just went berserk and decided to rush the Mega with shotgun, but that's pretty unlikely. It's more likely he's at the railgun and he wants to rail Cooler when he's taking the Mega. So now I'd like you to put yourself into Cypher's shoes and just think about what you would do if you're standing at rail and Cooler just doesn't show up. Like, you're waiting for him to take the Mega to hit the railgun, but there's no Cooler anywhere. You don't see him. Would you just go for the Mega? I don't think you would, because there's a chance he just camps there with rockets or with LG and sets a trap, in which case Cypher would probably die. So what I think Cooler should do right here is turn around, run to the jump pad, drop down for the LG, and from there either take the Mega and the yellow, or if Cypher after some time actually decides to go for the Mega himself, just do a lot of damage. Or alternatively, he could start walking now, walk around the shotgun, and drop down from the other side, which is a little bit slower, which is why I wouldn't do it, but it has the same effect. So even though Cooler right now probably feels like the most unlucky person in the world, the situation could have very well worked out into his favor had he acted a bit differently. Then again, you can't really blame him. I mean, that particular spawning situation happens like once every 100 games. What Cooler does instead is jump to the red armor. I'm not sure if he just did not realize in time the red was gone, it's possible. Maybe he was just really pissed about his spawn, so he didn't think clearly. But he gets railed, so it's really the worst possible start for him. But Cooler knows that Cypher right now only has a shotgun and a railgun. So if they got into a long range fight, Cooler would have a plasma gun and he'd have potential to deal a lot of damage. So what Cooler tries to do here at the rocket launcher is, engage in a long range fight, which he does, and he just hopes Cypher misses his rails. And he's lucky, Cypher does miss his 2 first rails. And even though Cooler goes all in, I mean, he knows he'll die, he manages to deal a lot of damage. Cypher had 200 health, 150 armor, and at the end of it he has 80 health left. So Cooler is fortunate to spawn at the plasma gun, and he's plasma jumping up to just deny the red, no matter what. Even if he dies here, he still wants to deny this item to eventually get control. But he actually gets away pretty healthy, and now he has to go for the Mega because he has a better stack, and in this fight he predicts Cypher's movement very nicely with the plasma. Cypher dodges pretty badly here though, he just goes directly at the Mega even though it wasn't even spawning at that very moment. So he just made it too easy for Cooler to aim at him. Now Cooler gets a railgun, he can get the LG, so he's got all weapons. And here Cypher drops in from above, so this is a sure kill for Cooler, he gets some LG damage, and I don't know what he's doing now. And now he's just staying in the same place, gets railed once, and he continues to just stand here and gets railed another time, and now Cooler's dead. So what should he have done differently? Let's see. First of all, right here, Cypher's trapped. He's basically only got one escape route, which is a teleporter, so Cooler should be spamming the escape route with rockets. And then there's no way Cypher would have escaped. He might have hit another railgun, but that's it, As soon as he would have shown himself, Cooler would have killed him with rockets. Anyway, Cypher does get through the telly, but Cooler still hits a rocket on the escape, so Cypher's got 13 HP, and I think right now the only thing for Cooler to do is go through the telly with LG, spamming the LG to make sure if Cypher stands in front of the telly with a railgun he dies. Anyway, I think this is all you can say about the situation. Cooler just plays really weird here. Like, he doesn't even look for a shot right now, he just stands there with rockets. Anyway, he spawns at the rocket launcher and gets a yellow straight away, so he's kind of fortunate with that spawn. He knows he can go for the other yellow because Cypher's way too low to challenge it. He knows Cypher got the red, so they're gonna be fairly even for this mega health. And Kula hits a better rocket and ties the game up again. However, I have the feeling that Cypher is keeping the wrong mega time. It is the second frag in a row where he jumps on the mega like 3 seconds too early, making it very easy for Kula to hit his shots. Now, whenever somebody asks me for advice on ZTN, I tell them not to sit on the red armor for no reason. It is a very vulnerable position, and there are so many ways your opponent could come from and ambush you. What I prefer is sitting at the shotgun and then doing a fake jump to the red when it spawns, so that if anyone camps anywhere with rockets, baits them into shooting them and you know they're there. And otherwise you just collect the red. Kula does sit on the red armor for no reason, but the second he sees Cypher, he jumps away. But now instead of using LG, he uses rockets. I don't know why. With LG, there's no way Cypher would have been able to rocket jump onto the red. So Kula just gives it away, seems satisfied picking up this yellow armor. He knows the other one is spawning any second now, so he's running over towards that part of the map. And even though Cypher hits a really sick rocket right here, Kula stays and tries to deal damage himself, because he does not want Cypher to have full control by any means. Nice railgun here, gives Kula a chance to challenge for this red. Now Kula hits one rail and then he peeks from the left side of the pillar and instantly moves to the right of it. Cypher, expecting Kula to be on the left, runs into the trap. But Kula is too low to rocket jump to the red, and assuming Cypher doesn't delay his spawn, he has 2 spawn points at the rocket launcher, one at the LG and one at the shotgun available to him. And from every one of them he can get to Kula in time to kill him before the red pickup. So Kula should have tried to get both yellows, while Cypher was taking the red. He gets a yellow spawn now, takes a little bit of damage here, but he makes it through to the yellow. So Cypher after this mega will have a slight advantage, but not a significant one. The next item on play is the red, and here Cypher gets welcomed with a rail. So now they're pretty equal on stacks, and even though Cypher can't see Kula right now, it's obvious he's still there. And Cypher can't just spam nades, because Kula would run out with LG and most certainly deal a lot of damage to Cypher. So what Cypher does is he throws one nade and hides behind the wall. As expected, Kula comes out with LG, and Cypher just trails him when he jumps to the red, and can now rocket jump to grab it himself. Hitting the rail on the exit means he just dealt 160 damage to Kula, who previous to that had less than 2 yellows worth of armor, which is why he tried to hit this cheeky rocket out of the telly, knowing Kula needs a 50 health. A bit too late though. And now, even though the mega is very soon, Cypher decides to go through the telly again. The reason for this is that players out of control love to use the mega spawning time as an opportunity to move around the map unnoticed, and Cypher actually only just missed Kula by a second then. Now Cypher has 200-200 and he can go looking for Kula to prevent him from stacking up on the yellows. And he finds Kula here at this yellow in the possibly worst place for Cypher. He only barely survives the encounter, losing all his stack. And Kula could hardly have done any more out of this situation. I would even go as far as saying that not killing Cypher here was beneficial to Kula, because this way he's guaranteed to get back into control. He's very smart to slow down here, because it's apparent Cypher would be taking the health bubbles, so he just waits a little bit and then runs out aggressively. Predicts Cypher would be moving to the mega health and bounces him around with 2 rockets. What Kula doesn't know yet is that Cypher got a ridiculously good spawn at the rocket launcher Kula dropped previously. So Kula rocket jumped expecting to deal with a plasma gun and had no chance. Now Kula's in trouble. He cannot get this yellow because Cypher is spamming it with rockets, so his only advantage over Cypher is that he has a shaft and Cypher doesn't. Which kinda works out into his favor here. Then again, it's a pretty hopeless push from Cypher. There's not much he can do from this position with only rockets, and Kula could have actually done more damage with shaft here. In fact, red is spawning 2 seconds from now, and Kula can definitely defend it with LG against Cypher's rockets. So Cypher's push was actually a huge mistake considering his weaponry, but Kula doesn't have a time on the red. It's really weird to see him forget it, considering he's said to have very precise timing, but as a matter of fact he does, and he drops down for the mega instead. And at the same time, Cypher has finally decided he could do with another gun, so they meet here at the mega and Kula has to retreat, having the smallest stack. And he is also railable, so he has to run back very carefully and can't just rush towards the red. So essentially he has given away both major items to Cypher, which could have both been his. He does however keep his life. Now Kula got a little bit of a problem. Cypher knows he's in this room, and Kula has only 3 ways to leave it. And since both major items were only just taken, Cypher is certainly going to be camping one of those routes, hoping to catch Kula. So Kula can either just take a guess and go one of these ways, hoping Cypher is checking another, Or he can wait until red will spawn and go the lower way. Or of course wait until mega will spawn and go one of the upper ways. Which should usually work unless Cypher reads that and leaves the items up. Cooler does neither of those. He first goes to get some LG ammo, which is perfectly fine. He then gets a 50 health, which is also legit. But now he goes to the red, just as it's about to spawn. And not very surprisingly, Cypher is there and collects the easy frag. I cannot tell you what exactly led Cooler to think Cypher wouldn't come to this red. Maybe he used to do that in their previous encounters, but looking at the situation objectively, it was clear Cooler couldn't go for this red. Now with 10 seconds before the next red, Cooler sees Cypher at the LG. This means he can hit the rail now, go to the red, and hit another one if Cypher chooses to use the teleporter. But Cypher sees it coming and Rocket jumps up. He accepted that he's going to get hit by a rail, knowing he can get a sure kill. I think that was actually the best thing for him to do, because there wasn't really a way to avoid getting railed if he wanted to get red. Before dying, Cooler keeps dealing out a lot of damage, which means Cypher has to be careful and collect health bubbles, which in turn means Cooler can take some yellows uncontestedly. That allows him to attack this mega, again just keeping Cypher from taking full control over the map. And he did so much damage that Cypher was railable and as a result couldn't go to the red. So the constant pressure finally pays off and Cooler gets back into control. What has happened now though is that both Mega and Red spawn at the same time, and Cooler ideally wants to get both. He has a much bigger stack than Cypher right now, so he could anticipate that Cypher won't attack the Mega, but rather take the Red, in which case he could just leave the Mega up and camp by the red armor. Worst thing that could have happened is that Cypher would have just taken the Mega, but there's a good chance Cooler would have gotten a frag. But Cooler does the logical and thus more obvious move of going to the Mega, getting up to full 200 health, which is neat, but Cypher now has enough to plus back comfortably. Cooler taking the yellows doesn't make any real difference either, considering Cypher has 170 armor. Now the items are split again, red is a good 8 seconds before Mega, and Cooler is going to be in position for it any moment. He spots Cypher in the plasma hallway, and Cooler now decides to go there, deal damage, and then replenish what health and armor he might lose with a Mega and lower yellow. But what happens is that during the fight he pushes Cypher towards the lower level, himself, to the spawning items, and with no way to chase into Cypher's LG, Cooler just gives away everything. Cooler could have definitely used some of his own advice there.
You have to choose situations when to be aggressive, but when to be not aggressive.
And this was not the time to be aggressive. And this again is a completely hopeless fight. But over and over again you see that Cooler does these sacrifices intentionally, keeping Cypher low, so eventually he can win over control. Which is exactly what happens here as Cypher escapes with 15 HP. Mega is spawning in 10 seconds, so Cooler has time to collect the yellow armor and the LG. The red will spawn right after Mega, but Cooler, perhaps thinking he'll get ambushed if he uses a teleporter, first goes to pick up rockets and leaves the red to Cypher. But apparently Cypher was too low to even go check the red. So Cooler gets that for free as well, and now he's got 2 minutes to catch up these 4 frags. To do that, to catch someone who's just running away, you can either try to chase him around, which I think, considering Cypher's defensive rockets, is not the smartest thing to do. Or you can try setting traps and dealing damage at the yellows. Even if that means you risk losing the major items, it doesn't matter as the scoreline forces Cooler to take risks. And I like what Cooler's doing. He hit the rail, but he doesn't go for any crazy attacks. And now after this Mega he goes to challenge Cypher again, even though he has a disadvantaged position, but he's not going to get any better chances unless Cypher makes mistakes. And you can see he was dealing good damage as long as they were having a regular fight. But as soon as Cypher started running away and shooting defensive rockets, Cooler should have turned back. He got Cypher really low anyway, and he's definitely running out of time now, to the extent that he has no choice but chase Cypher the next time he sees him. And here they meet. So let's break this fight down into pieces. First, Cooler switches out to rail and starts walking towards Cypher. This is actually very unusual. With rail you want to keep enough distance not to get into range of your opponent's LG. But Cypher can't see Cooler, and it's also pretty much impossible to hear if someone walks towards you or just walks around in the same place. So had Cypher attacked Cooler with LG right here, I think he would have gotten an easy frag. Then again, had Cooler used any other weapon, Cypher would have just escaped through the telly. What's also interesting is that Cooler aims strictly to the right side of the arch, not letting Cypher bait him into firing prematurely. Which is smart, he knows Cypher will try to get to the telly. Having hit the rail, Cooler has no choice but follow Cypher and finish him, regardless of the damage he takes. And 3 frags it is. Now Kula can get the Mega, and he also spots Cypher escaping into the telly, and he doesn't hear him by the grenade launcher, so he knows Cypher must be in the plasma room, but he gets railed. From where Kula is right now, it's just a matter of guessing right. Will Cypher return for the yellow, or will he go towards the grenades? And Kula guesses right and catches Cypher taking the yellow, making it a 2-frag difference. Kula needs to grab some ammo for his rockets and LG, and then he can go hunting again. But Kula obviously mistimes the Mega and starts waiting for it. But I actually quite like that Kula stands at the Mega this early, whether intentional or not. He can see all the 3 main weapons from here, and it's also a place Cypher would never expect him to just stand around at, with 40 seconds on the clock, when the Mega isn't even spawning. Which is why Cypher feels safe dropping down for the shots here, and Kula can deal quite a lot of damage. Let's see how this looks from Cypher's point of view. So he gets caught here and is forced to rocket jump up. And now he has to anticipate where Kula will go, because if Kula gets to see him, even for a split second, this could be enough to hit a rail or some LG. A good strategy in the end of the game is to go where your opponent has just been, because if you're trying to chase someone down, you're hardly going to check in the same place twice. Which is, I think, the main reason Cypher returns to his Mega, just being sure Kula would be frantically looking for him somewhere, rather than just waiting for the Mega. This spawn is of course very unfortunate. Cypher handles it perfectly though. Usually you die here. Just look at that instant reaction. Anyway, Cypher's in a lot of trouble now. Let's pause here and think about what options he has. Staying in this room is a clear no-go. It's a place Kula will definitely check sooner or later, having just seen Cypher go here. So he's got the choice between going to LG or the 50 health bubble, and in the end he can only guess, because Kula is clearly gonna go to one of those places and Cypher has no way of knowing which. So Cypher initially drops to LG, but then decides against it and goes back up, which is a clear mistake. He should have just gone with it. So Kula got the frag, and actually if we switch over to him, we can see that the LG is not on its spawn point. Thus Kula must know Cypher is around the plasma area, and with 10 seconds remaining in the game, I think he should have gone up the jump pad and tried to kill Cypher. Because if he gets a frag now, it doesn't matter how much damage he takes in the process, the game would be over. But he doesn't do that. It's no big deal, as long as he keeps Cypher from getting back into the game. And to do that he needs to deny him the yellows, or deal damage. So he's taken Mega and Red, and he's now going to get this yellow here. And what Kula does now is he goes to the other yellow to get all the items on rotation. But Kula's problem is he has no idea when this yellow spawns. So he's just sitting here, and meanwhile Red and Mega times are coming closer and closer. By jumping away and returning for it, he actually manages to waste the maximum amount of time possible, as a result has no time to check if Cypher's camping at the red, gets knocked down by a rail, and can't move to the Mega in time. So the mistake was overcommitting to the plasma yellow. He should have left for the red earlier. But now Kula actually does something interesting. He leaves red up to maintain his item rotation and goes for the yellow first, hoping Cypher would be afraid of going to the red. And it actually works out really nicely, as he's just in time to deal a lot of damage to Cypher, who gets knocked down to 15 armor. Kula on the other hand can grab the remaining yellow and looks quite healthy. The problem with the rotation Kula has set up is that the first yellow and red are too close to each other to get them both. So if Kula tries to get the yellow and then the red, which he does, he probably won't make it. And it's really unnecessary to, considering Mega is spawning, so he gives that away, rocket jumps up but is too late and loses red as well. At the least he gets to the plasma yellow without taking damage, which in fact puts him at a slight stack advantage. But the situation since the last cycle of items hasn't changed. The first yellow is only spawning 2 seconds earlier than the red, and yet Kula opts to go for it again instead of setting up for the red. And he gets railed, and now he's only got the choice between saying fuck it and surrendering full control to Cypher or trying to defend the Mega. But this goes awfully wrong. He only hits splash rockets and has to run away. But contrary to what Kula did earlier, Cypher decides it's all or nothing and follows Kula. Loses most of his stack but survives. And that's all he really cares about, as he calls GG. So that would be it. As you might have noticed, I paused a lot more in this video to go into more detail in certain situations. Now I'm not sure if that's a good or a bad thing. Please tell me if you think I should cut that down and try to keep with the flow of the game, or if it was alright. Also feel free to give suggestions for games I should analyze in future episodes. Or even just moments in games where you didn't quite understand what the fuck was going on. I'm reading through all the comments, so don't be shy. See you next time.